All right, sorry to make you wait. I was right outside, and then Clayton was still going. I walked down the hall, walked back. That's good, a little extra exercise. Um, Happy Thanksgiving to everybody. Grateful for you guys, and look forward to opportunities like this to chat with you guys every week or so. Um, one thing I think it would be okay to share is Derek Moore, who's our executive director, player development, does such a great job with our team year round. And he started this project several weeks ago where we basically got assigned another team member, staff member, and then have had weekly meetings with that person since then, different topics to cover and that type of thing. And so just randomly, I got Mario Anderson. And we've talked in here about Mario before a few different times. One, I think, as far back as when we recruited him, and you guys were asking me about Shane asking me to watch his film, and Taylor Edwards asking me to watch his film, and so forth. And then I know later, we've talked probably multiple occasions about transfers and my background coming from smaller schools and all that. So there really couldn't have been a more perfect guy for me to randomly be assigned on the team, and it's been really cool. It's really been one of the highlights for me in this season is sitting down with him every week and getting to know him better and talking about his family and talking about how school is going and talk about his experiences here so far and how he's grown and learned on and off the field, and even talking about his future. And one of the most refreshing things for me is when you talk about somebody's future, it would be so easy to say, yeah, I'm going to play in the league and all that. To me, that's sort of an easy answer, right? It's an aspiration for everybody. But a much more thoughtful answer is, what is your plan when football ends, whether it's in the short term or, somewhere down the road quite a bit. And Mario's a very thoughtful, sincere guy, and he's very grateful to be here. He's really taken advantage of this opportunity, and it's easy to look out on the field and say he's gotten better as the season's gone on, and he's been a productive running back. But to me, it's about a lot more than that. And if I was an alum or a donor, to me, this is the type of guy that is going to make you proud just by how he's carrying himself every day. And there's different opinions about transferring and the transfer portal, and I get all sides of it. But for sure, Mario and guys like him that have come here, and some of these guys that have come from smaller schools that get into this environment and just appreciate it as much as they do. I think it's very telling, and it's been good to see. So I thought that was somewhat fitting for this week to share a little bit about that. Now, before we talk about Kentucky and the opponent this week, what about this Darude guy? I mean, he seemed to steal a lot of the limelight here last week. So I was all set to tell you this fun story of international intrigue and mystery that, Darude was real. This was just a cover for him coming here, and he was going to meet with the Turkish ambassador and help facilitate Finland getting into NATO and all this stuff, kind of like a Kevin Costner No Way Out story, something like that. But it all got blown up because I looked it up, and Finland got into NATO back in July. So maybe this guy really is just a DJ, and he's not like who was that Chuck Barris from the Gong Show, who was supposed to be in the CIA or something. So maybe this guy that's what he does. That's what he does. So, here's my idea. Next year, let's bring ABBA over, all right? And let's do an NIL concert, a fundraiser. And if we're going to go the Scandinavian route, let's bring ABBA over here. And I'm telling you that every female that graduated from this place from like the late 70s to the mid 90s will be there. They'll pay top dollar for tickets. It'll be a heck of a deal. It'd be a heck of a deal. So let's start getting wheels in motion for that. Relative to the game, it was a very satisfying win on a lot of different levels. We started off well, and that was really important to come out ready to go and keep the crowd engaged and all of that. The game certainly had a lot of highs and lows to it, which when they're two pretty evenly matched teams, that's going to happen. We had to overcome a lot of adversity at different points, but we found a way to finish strong. And it was something I think we've been searching for a lot this year, which is complementary football in all three phases, chipping in and sort of pulling their weight at different times, carrying their weight, and then your best players playing well when the game's on the line, your veteran guys stepping up. And you could certainly point to all three phases, whether it was the defensive line and Tonka Hemingway, whether it was Spencer and Xavier, or whether it was our specialists, right? Kai did a nice job flipping the field position and got back into more of a rhythm that we hoped he could get into. Mitch hit a big field goal and did a nice job with kickoffs, with one exception. And the mishit kick he had, he actually flew down there and made the tackle on the 25-yard line. And then Hunter Rogers was great in coverage, so and perfect with his snaps. So, to win a game like that, you've got to persevere, and your best players have to play well. So it was good to see that happen in all three phases, and you just felt on the sideline like we were going to find a way to pull that one out, which obviously we did. And so that puts us in a nice spot here for this week, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for Clemson and what they do and how they do it. I feel like they're playing their best football of the year now, and really gaining some momentum here. They've had some really good wins, and they're playing well in all three phases. And when you look at them on special teams, I think the first thing that jumps out to me is that they have a system that they believe in. It's worked well for them. Their kids know it. The faces may change on the units year to year, but they're very thorough. They're very cohesive. They know exactly what they're doing and how they want it done, and their kids execute at a high level. Shipley, of course, is a very dangerous returner. I mean, you talk about the combination of power, speed, and vision. Got a lot of respect for him, and was very, very nervous with going into this game last year about his explosiveness back there. They've got a veteran punter, fifth-year senior, who's having a really good year. They've moved some different guys through at punt returner. Their freshman is doing a really good job kicking off. They've only had a handful of returnable kicks all year. I know they've gone through some transition with field goals early in the year, but they seem to have settled in there as well. So big challenge for us this week, and hoping that we can do our part again to help us find a way to get a win.
Yeah, Pete, kind of a two-parter here. One, I mean, Kai's kind of had an up and down year. Have you found yourself having to, really talk to him in ways that you didn't have to last year? And two, because it's the Clemson game and he was so good last year during that game, have you seen maybe a little bit extra juice out of him this year, this week?
Yeah, so I would say that I try to be really consistent in terms of my approach with the specialists, and that's the fine line between coaching and giving them feedback constantly, but not micromanaging them either, and being overbearing and, kind of beating a dead horse on things either, because I do think our guys do a really good job of self-analysis, and when we watch film together, I want to know what they think first and foremost. This is what I see, but what do you see, and do you feel the same way about it that I do? So we've been working through that with Kai, but even last year where maybe he was a little bit more consistent for whatever reason, that doesn't mean, I was laissez-faire with him back then. So you try to walk that fine line. Kai obviously had a fantastic game last year up there, but our guys in that group are very mature and very businesslike, and they know that each year's different, each team's different. We have different strengths and weaknesses, and every game plays out differently, right? There's all kinds of controllables and uncontrollables every week. Weather and field position and, a gajillion other things that could affect, how the ball bounces, so to speak. So hopefully coming off a good week last week, there's a little bit of momentum. I'll be honest with you, if anything, I've kind of backed off the guys this week because it is a long season. And, going out there and just banging punts all day, that's not always going to be the answer. You want their leg to be fresh come Saturday night. That's got to be their heaviest day of the week.
Pete, you mentioned Hunter Rogers, and I know he was named the producer for you guys for the week, and just the impact that he's been able to have over the course of the season, especially when he's able to get that release off the line and the refs, anyway, don't want to get you in trouble. But my point being is we saw him this past weekend, makes a couple tackles, makes some big plays where he downs it inside the 10. What has it been his impact towards the team? Because I think that's a position people overlook a lot, but obviously, as you know, it's very important from multiple reasons.
Yeah, no question. I mean, first and foremost, his snaps are very, very quick getting back there. And so the difference between a snap that's being caught by the punter at, say, 14 yards, that's 0.66, 0.67, 0.68, which his often are, compared to a snapper who's an extra tenth of a second on that same snap that's 0.77, 0.78. When you're looking at attacking that opponent's punt unit, when you're seeing those operation times as low as ours are, you're probably having second thoughts about even going after it, because even if you scheme it up great, are you still going to get there? Because that operation is so quick between the snap, the catch, and the punt, and that is really a critical part of it, because when you're seeing slow operation times, your mouth starts watering a little bit about going after somebody. So that's the first thing that Hunter does so well. And then the second part is that he's basically like an extra gunner in coverage. And without getting into too much detail on scheme, I mean, that's sort of how we're set up, that our long snapper is another first wave cover guy down the field, and Hunter runs well enough. He's probably a legitimate 4.7 guy getting down the field, and so you have to make sure that you're aware of him, and so a lot of teams that would like to bail a guy out of the box and double a gunner down the field can't do it against us, because they have to be aware of Hunter Rogers, and so that puts your gunners in better shape to get down the field and make plays, which I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Marcellus Dial stepping in and playing well at gunner last week. And you probably saw him out there wearing number 47, because there were times that he and Josh Simon were on the field at the same time. So, if you see me ever retire early, the double numbers will probably be part of what factors into that decision. But we managed to make that work, and Marcellus, stepped in and did a really nice job. And, we're thin at corner. We've had some injuries to guys that play gunner and or corner on our punt pressure unit. So, you're asking guys to step up. And in some cases, you'd love maybe as a younger guy ready to step in and do that. But if the answer to that is not really, then you got to ask one of these veteran guys who might be playing 70 snaps on defense to shoulder some extra burden, which Dial did last week.
Did you have any kind of taglines or slogans for your ABBA NIL concert?
You got to give me some time, but it would definitely involve them arriving in one of those old Saab 900 convertibles the real rounded. I mean, I love those. Make it a turbo. Make it a turbo. So I'd love to have one of those someday. Now it would probably break down about every 2 weeks, but it'd still be worth it.
Yeah, why not? Right. We didn't see Mitch or Kai on the senior walk list. I guess that probably means you'll have both of those guys back next year. What does that mean to you? What has the conversation been like with those guys from that standpoint?
Sure. Well, they love this place, and they enjoy being a part of this program, and they've had really good experiences here, starting off academically, socially. They've embraced Columbia, and I think Columbia's embraced them, which is great. And then I think their football experience. I know I'm not putting words in either of their mouth. They got to put up with me every day, so that's not easy. But I do think they enjoy the emphasis that we put on special teams here these last 3 years, and they see the meaningful role that they've been able to play. And you never say never. The NFL could come along or whatever, but I do think that they're making the most of this experience in every way, athletically, academically, socially, and that's what you want to see guys do. I mean, this is a great opportunity that thousands and thousands and thousands of kids would love to be here in their shoes. And when you see guys that appreciate it and value it and are trying to give back, I mean, those guys are always doing community service and anything else you need them to do, they're more than willing. So and they're both pretty decent golfers too. So the weather's pretty good for that around here.
How, as a head coach, did you handle rivalry week?
So I think rivalry weeks tend to take on the personality of the head coach a little bit. And so for me, I always tried to be as consistent as I could be. I didn't want to be a whole lot different during Lehigh Lafayette week than I was during Lehigh Colgate week, because they're all important. And I think a lot of times if you make too big of a deal of it, then it gets too emotional and it draws you away from the task at hand, which is playing well and falling back on your training and executing the game plan at a high level and those types of things. It should mean more. It is a big game, but I think sometimes a little bit more understated approach to that is better from my experience when it comes to the actual preparation of the team, and then the ability to play consistently at a high level through 4 quarters, rather than coming out, storming with emotion and then it tailing off over the course of the game. And I've seen that happen too. I remember one year going over to Lafayette, and we came out strong, and then for whatever reason, didn't make some plays down the stretch, and ended up losing a close game. So that's my 2 cents on it, and I like the way Shane's approached it this week.
Hey Pete, you mentioned earlier that Clemson has had some transition at the field goal kicker spot this season. At any of your stops over your career, have you ever been in a situation where you had to go off the roster during the season to get a specialist?
I have not, but I give them credit for their creativity there. And, you got to sometimes think outside the box and find unusual ways to get the job done, right? And I think a good coaching staff and a good administrative staff is going to look for answers and not just sit back and say, okay, this is where we're at. And that doesn't mean that the guy that you replaced, you just push aside. You obviously want to keep coaching and developing and all that stuff and finding meaningful roles for that guy, which they certainly have. No, it's, you keep learning, right? I'm 53 years old and you keep learning. And it's so interesting that you still have guys out there with eligibility remaining because of the COVID year. And sometimes you have a walk-on player who graduates and leaves school because he was paying his own way, but he still got eligibility remaining, right? So, there's a lot of different ways to get the job done, and I give them credit for being creative with it. All right, you guys were way too easy today. All right, enjoy your holiday and take care.